Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments now. Let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The room smelled like lilies, champagne, and secrets. Riley Carter stood at the altar, veil in hand, staring at the double oak doors of St. Joseph's Chapel as they flew open like something out of a courtroom drama. Every guest turned. Her breath caught. Commander Thomas Carter, her father, America's poster boy SEAL, 3 decades of medals on his chest, marched down the aisle in full dress uniform. Eyes locked on her. Cold, proud, dangerous. "I disown you," he shouted, his voice a bullet in the silent crowd. Gasps echoed. Her mother flinched in the front row. The priest stepped back. Riley stood still. No one knew what had happened just days before. No one but her. Riley had found it. The drive hidden behind a false panel in her father's gun safe. Labeled missions. It wasn't. It was a collection of video files. Operations she knew were never sanctioned. Names. Faces. Screams. Executions. She hadn't planned on doing anything with it. Not until she'd walked in on her mother in a silk robe, in her fiancé's hotel room. That betrayal broke something. Now her father, who protected monsters, who wore loyalty like armor, was condemning her. Publicly. At her wedding. For what? For knowing the truth? Riley didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She just stood taller. The guests whispered. Her fiancé, Jason, looked like he'd swallowed acid. Her mom wouldn't even make eye contact. Riley took one step down from the altar and asked, clear as glass, "You sure you want to do this here?" Her father's jaw clenched. She smiled. Cold. Calculated. Okay then. Because the drive? It wasn't in her bag anymore. It had already been delivered. The real question now was, who would fall first? Before we move ahead, I just want to say, your support truly means everything. We're building something special here, and our next big goal is reaching 10,000 incredible subscribers. If you're feeling the emotions in these stories, imagine what's still to come. Subscribe now, be part of this amazing journey, and let's keep growing together. Your one click can make a real difference. Let's continue the story. The awards gala smelled of scotch and power. Held at the Capitol View Ballroom in D.C., it was filled with suits, stars, and government ghosts. The kind of place where everyone smiled fake and nobody asked questions unless they already knew the answers. Riley walked in wearing a black dress her mother would have called tactical, sleek, quiet, forgettable. She kept her hair pinned up, her eyes low, but her steps deliberate. Across the room, Commander Carter stood at the center of a circle, laughing, toasting, wearing a brand-new medal on his chest like a shield against the flames Riley had already lit. He hadn't seen it coming. Not yet. But someone else had. Miss Carter. A man appeared beside her, late 50s, silver hair, sharp eyes. You requested this meeting. I assume you know who I am. She nodded once. CIA handler. You oversaw my father's overseas deployments. He looked at her, stone-faced. Do you know what you're doing? I do now. She handed him the flash drive. No folder name. No encryption. Just raw footage. A time bomb. Everything. From Kandahar. Somalia. Yemen. Ops that were never briefed, never approved. And never clean. The handler didn't move. Riley turned to leave, but paused. You people build him into a god. Let's see how long he stays one. She disappeared into the crowd as the handler plugged the drive into his secured tablet. Across the room, her father raised his glass. Unaware. Untouched. For now. But when the screen lit up, and that first video played, a twitch hit the handler's brow. And everything started to shift. What happens when the Navy's golden weapon becomes its biggest liability? The first time Riley saw her father cry, she was 5. Her goldfish died. The second time? There wasn't one. Commander Thomas Carter didn't cry. He crushed. That night, the SEAL compound was silent. On the surface. But inside the Black Ops world, alarms were sounding. Riley's footage had blown open a case that was never supposed to exist. SEAL Team Shadow, Off-the-books missions buried by death reports and redacted memos. Operations that violated everything the Navy claimed to uphold. And now, it had a face. His face. Inside a Pentagon sub-basement, her father stood across from the same CIA handler who had watched the footage hours earlier. "What the hell is this?" Carter growled. "You tell me," the handler replied, tapping the screen. "Because this is you. Leading executions. Torture. Civilian kills. You covered this with fake orders. You think you're clean?" Carter leaned in. "I did what needed to be done." The handler didn't blink. "You were never invisible. You were just useful." Outside, Riley sat in her car, engine running, hands shaking. She didn't enjoy this. Not really. But justice didn't always look pretty. Sometimes it looked like truth, unwrapped and burning. Her phone buzzed. A message from a blocked number. "You've just started a war, little girl." She stared at the screen, then deleted the message. Because Riley Carter had finally become something her father never expected: dangerous. And the SEAL legacy he built on blood and silence? She just made sure it would drown in both. Rain hit the windshield in heavy sheets as Riley pulled into her childhood driveway. The house was just as she remembered: white brick, green shutters, the American flag still waving off the porch. But it didn't feel like home anymore. Not since the night she realized her hero of a father wasn't just carrying secrets, he was built out of them. She stepped through the front door. Her mother sat at the kitchen island, legs crossed, wine in hand like nothing had happened. "You've caused quite the storm," she said, not looking up. "Only lit the match," Riley replied. "Dad stacked the dynamite." Her mother smirked. "He gave you everything. The house, the school, the chance to stand in his shadow. And this is how you repay him." Riley took a breath, walking past her. "He didn't give me anything. He controlled everything." Upstairs, she entered her father's study. Bookshelves, clean. Walls covered in awards, commendations, framed photos from black and white war zones. But on the desk sat a folder. Unmarked. Fresh. Inside, transcripts. Emails. Missions. Proof. He knew she'd find it. He wanted her to. Downstairs, a door slammed. Heavy footsteps climbed. Her father's voice rang out, sharp as ever. "Get out of my office, Riley." She didn't move. He entered, dripping from the storm. His eyes, steel gray, bloodshot, met hers. "You're not my daughter." She met his stare. "No," she said, voice steady. "I'm your reckoning." For a second, he looked human. Then the mask returned. "You're making a mistake you can't walk back from." She stepped closer, folder in hand. "I'm not walking back." He lunged. Riley barely moved in time as her father's hand slammed against the edge of the desk, scattering papers, breaking a photo frame of them at her high school graduation. "You think I'm scared of exposure?" he screamed. "You think anyone's going to care about ghosts buried in sand? I made this country safe." "You made yourself untouchable," Riley shouted back. "You lied to everyone. You killed for fun. You let Mom cheat with my fiancé and did nothing." The room went still. She hadn't meant to say that last part, but it was out. His eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I saw them, Dad. Hotel. Room 606. She was in his bed wearing your dog tags." That stopped him. His jaw clenched so tight it looked like it might snap. "She's your mother." She stopped being that when she started sleeping with Jason. Riley's hand shook, but she held her ground. The scream that followed wasn't loud. It was guttural. Broken. He slammed his fist against the wall, once, twice, leaving a dent. "You want to burn it all down," he said, voice hoarse. "Fine. But don't think for a second this ends with me." She turned, walking out of the room with the folder clutched to her chest. Behind her, he screamed one last time. But she didn't turn back. "I'm not scared of you anymore," Riley whispered to herself in the mirror, her voice low and fierce. She stood in the guest room of a cheap motel off Route 29. She'd left the house without another word. No goodbye. No warning. Just her, the folder, and everything he taught her. How to survive, how to vanish, how to move like a ghost. A single lamp lit the room. Her laptop blinked beside her. Emails loaded. News headlines refreshed. Breaking. Commander Thomas Carter under classified review after leaked footage surfaces. It was starting. She glanced at the bruises blooming on her wrist from their struggle. Faint, but real. He tried to shut her up, just like he always did. With anger, with fear, with power. But this time, she fought back. She sent a single message to the reporter who had been circling her inbox. I'm ready to talk, but only live. The reply came instantly. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. on air. Riley looked at herself again. The girl in the reflection didn't look broken. She looked ready. This was bigger than her. Bigger than revenge. It was about truth. About setting fire to the lies that poisoned everything she loved. Her voice might shake. Her hands might tremble. But she would speak. And for the first time, the world would hear her side. The studio lights were hotter than Riley expected. She sat under them, mic clipped to her collar, palms sweating against the chair's arms. Across from her sat anchor Julia Rowe, known for eating liars alive on live TV. But Riley wasn't here to lie. The red, live light blinked on. Joining us now is Riley Carter, Julia began. Daughter of Commander Thomas Carter, who, after a viral leak, faces mounting accusations of war crimes. Riley, first question, why now? Riley met her gaze. Because I was disowned for telling the truth. The words hit like a gut punch. Social media exploded instantly. Julia leaned in. He disowned you publicly, at your wedding? He wanted the spotlight. Not a daughter who knew too much. And what exactly do you know? Riley inhaled slowly, forcing the tremble out of her voice. He ordered illegal kills. Covered them. Lied about civilian deaths. I saw the footage. He knew I had it. Julia paused, letting the weight settle. Do you think your father will retaliate? He already has, Riley said. But the more he fights, the more the truth will rise. The interview cut to commercial. Julia leaned closer, voice low. He'll come for you now. Riley's eyes didn't waver. He already did. You really think anyone's gonna believe you over a war hero? Her mother snapped through the phone. Riley stared at the motel ceiling. She'd answered out of instinct, not choice. The voice on the other end was venom wrapped in pearls. You think leaking a few files makes you some kind of martyr? You're a spoiled little brat who never knew what sacrifice meant. You slept with my fiancé, Riley said coldly. Save the lecture. There was a beat of silence. Then, soft laughter. Oh, baby. You think that's betrayal? Try staying married to a man who loved war more than you. Who used you as a prop in every family photo. You stayed for the money, Riley shot back. And you only called now because it's all slipping away. Thomas will bury you, her mother hissed. And no one will cry. Riley hung up, not because it hurt, but because it didn't anymore. She looked at her laptop screen. Emails were pouring in. Journalists. Whistleblower groups. XSEALS. For the first time, people believed her. And the ones trying to scare her were the same ones finally losing their grip. At exactly 2:37 a.m., her motel room door handle twitched. Riley froze. She slid off the bed, barefoot, careful. The lamp stayed off. Moonlight gave her just enough vision to grab her pepper spray and inch toward the door. The handle turned again. Soft. Intentional. She heard the click of something metallic, tools. Not random. Targeted. A whisper in her father's voice echoed in her head. Always trust the silence before the noise. She reached under the mattress. A gift from the SEAL friend who'd warned her, an old Glock 19. Footsteps moved outside. Then, a voice. Male. Quiet. Controlled. Riley. It's me. Shane. Don't shoot. She cracked the door slightly. Saw his face. Her father's former protege. Now disavowed. Dangerous. You're being hunted, he said. And not just by him. They want you gone. Who's they? People who made your father a hero. People who lose everything if you stay alive. Her fingers tightened on the gun. Why are you helping me? Shane looked her dead in the eye. Because I watched that footage. And for the first time, I believe you. My name's already a threat, Riley whispered as she scrolled through the headlines on Shane's burner phone. Commander's daughter drops bombshell live on air, hero or monster. Carter's kill list surfaces, Pentagon silent as investigation grows, her hands shook. Not from fear, adrenaline. Everything she said on air was spreading like fire. But every fire spreads until it burns something important. And she knew what they'd come for next. Her. Shane sat across from her, loading bullets into a magazine with calm, robotic focus. "You need to disappear for a bit," he said. "I'm not hiding," she snapped. "I've been hiding my whole damn life. Behind his uniform. Behind her lies. I'm done with that." He studied her. "You sound like him." "I'm nothing like him," she said. Then paused. "Am I?" Shane holstered the weapon. "Differences." He erased people. "You're forcing the world to look at them." A silence passed. Riley looked out the window. Fog rolled over the motel lot. She saw her reflection in the glass, older somehow, sharper. Like her innocence had shed itself overnight. "I never wanted this," she whispered. "But it's my name now. My legacy. My war." Shane stood, handed her a flash drive. "Then we'd better win it." She hadn't let herself think about the wedding since it exploded. Until now. They were parked outside the church, the same one where her father had disowned her. She stared at it from across the street, hidden behind tinted windows. Shane sat beside her, silent. "Feels like years ago," she said. "Not 3 weeks." "You coming here for closure or intel?" he asked. "Both." The church was quiet now, emptied of guests and drama. But Riley remembered every second. The silence before her father's voice cut the air. The look in Jason's eyes when the truth started cracking through the walls. "Want me to go in with you?" Shane asked. "No. This is mine." She walked in alone. The place smelled like stale flowers and broken promises. The altar still stood, untouched. Her bouquet, fake roses, white and blood red, still sat in the corner bin. She walked to the pulpit, stood where she would have said her vows. She imagined herself in that dress, smiling, hopeful, blinded. "Dearly beloved," she whispered, "we are gathered here today to witness King disaster." She laughed under her breath, bittersweet. But as she turned to leave, something caught her eye. A small USB drive taped beneath the altar. She ripped it free, heart pounding, plugged it into her phone. Video footage, security cams, audio files. She wasn't the only one who recorded that day, and someone didn't want her to forget it. So many questions flooded her mind, she couldn't breathe. Who planted the drive? Why keep footage of her father's outburst? Of her fiancé's betrayal? Of her mother's cold smirk in the corner? Riley sat on the church steps, phone in hand, watching the clips one by one. One stuck out, a video angle she hadn't seen. From behind the choir curtain, Jason whispering to her mother before the ceremony. "He doesn't know yet. We'll handle it after." "Don't let her speak," her mother replied. "Just get through the day." "I told her she could trust me," Jason muttered. She believed it. Then a kiss. Fast. Familiar. Riley dropped the phone like it burned her. So, it wasn't just betrayal. It was planned. All of it. They knew what she had. They knew she was close to truth. The wedding? A staged celebration, a silencing. Shane stepped out of the car and walked up. "You okay?" he asked. No, she looked up at him. "So, they didn't just betray me. They tried to trap me." "And now?" he asked. Riley stood, rage like iron in her spine. "So I burn every last one of them." The flash drive Riley pulled from the church altar wasn't just surveillance footage, it was leverage. Hours later, she met Shane in the parking lot of a shuttered diner in rural Maryland. The kind of place where eyes stayed down and no one asked questions. She tossed the drive into his lap. "Gifted from the enemy," she said. "I think Jason or my mother was planning to blackmail my dad." Shane plugged it into his tablet, scanning quickly. "This is heavy. Audio, visual, time-stamped. It's enough to prove conspiracy. Enough to show premeditation. They tried to play each other," she muttered. "They just didn't expect me to flip the whole damn board." Shane's phone buzzed. He answered, nodded once, then ended the call. "That was the contact. The footage you leaked, it cracked open internal investigations. Your father's old SEAL team is being questioned. Some of them aren't protecting him anymore." Riley felt something shift inside her. Not relief, not victory, but momentum. She opened her bag and pulled out a small package, tied in black twine. "What's that?" Shane asked. A wedding gift, she said. Inside, a ring box. But not her engagement ring. Inside sat a microchip. The one her father had tried to destroy months ago. She'd salvaged it. Encrypted orders. Signatures. He thought it was erased. Shane stared. You've been holding back. No, she said, calm. I've been waiting for the moment it hurts most. His name still carried weight in military circles. Despite the footage, the leaks, the broadcasted humiliation, Commander Thomas Carter was still being referred to in classified memos as an asset under internal review. It made Riley sick. She sat across from a retired Navy JAG officer in a secured cafe in D.C. His name was Roy Matheson, gray hair, sharp jawline, still loyal to the law, not the uniform. This file is full of proof, Roy said, tapping the manila envelope she gave him. But you know what comes next, right? Retaliation, Riley answered. Roy nodded. His men still fear him. Some still protect him. And if the Pentagon buries this, they won't, she said. Not if it becomes public. You're gambling with your life. No, Riley replied. I'm gambling with his. Roy leaned forward, lowering his voice. Why now? Why not let the system handle it? Because the system raised him, she said coldly. And because he taught me that fear keeps people quiet. I'm done being quiet. She stood and slid a burner phone across the table. That chip contained sealed mission logs, all signed off by his hand. You deliver it to his superiors, or I do it live on air. Roy didn't argue. As she left the cafe, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You're digging into things that don't belong to you, the message read. Riley typed back one word. Correction. They belong to the dead. Riley knew the moment she crossed the line. It was when she uploaded the encrypted chip to 3 international journalists and 2 federal prosecutors at once. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't ask for safety. She made the truth louder than any cover-up could contain. That was war. She and Shane drove in silence toward an off-grid safe house deep in the Appalachians. They'd changed vehicles twice, ditching plates, swapping phones. Riley felt hunted, but for once, she didn't feel helpless. Weapons, she asked. 2 sidearms, 1 carbine, 3 mags, Shane replied. And I've got eyes at the compound. Good. A storm moved in overhead. Wind howled through the treetops. Branches snapped. Every sound felt like a warning. They arrived at the cabin, a military-grade hideout from Shane's off-the-books network. Once inside, she checked the satellite connection. Secure. Footage transfers in progress. Shane tossed her a vest. From here on out, assume no one's coming to save us. I stopped expecting heroes the day my dad smiled for a photo he took in front of bodies, she said, strapping on the armor. A laptop pinged. Message received. Confirmed. Commander Carter implicated in 2 unsanctioned civilian ops. Congress notified. It was beginning. Shane looked at her. They're gonna come fast. Probably tonight. Riley loaded her weapon. Then we hit them first. There was no denying them anymore. The crimes, his crimes, were now on record, leaked, analyzed, and dissected. Executions of civilians mistaken for enemy insurgents. An entire village torched on a preemptive strike. Video of Carter giving the order without hesitation. No visible remorse. Riley sat at the edge of a narrow cot inside the safe house, watching the footage again, not to relive it, but to study how cold her father's voice had been. Terminate all. No survivors. It wasn't just a mission. It was murder. And the government knew it. Shane stepped in, satellite phone pressed to his ear. They're panicking, he said. 3 resignations in the last 24 hours. 1 senator fled the country. Good, Riley muttered. Let them run. Doesn't change what they did. They're also blaming you. They say you doctored the footage. She looked up, jaw tight. Then they're scared. The door creaked. A signal from the outside guard. Someone was coming. Riley grabbed her Glock and moved toward the surveillance monitor. A black SUV rolled into the forest path. Inside? No plates. Tinted windows. Military build. SEAL strike team, Shane said. Non-official. They're coming to clean the mess, Riley whispered. And bury the truth. The crimes may have been committed overseas, But this was a battlefield now. And she wasn't running. She was waiting. Shane popped the panel behind the cabin's chimney and pulled out a steel lockbox. Inside, the original file drive Riley had taken from her father's safe before the wedding. He hadn't seen her. She'd done it while he was screaming at her fiancé over boutonnieres. It's encrypted 6 layers deep, Shane said. Military grade. He thought it'd never be opened. It's open now, Riley replied, pulling out a thumb drive. This version's already in the hands of everyone who matters. Still, she stared at the original file. Holding it was different. He'd carried it across borders, across wars, thinking it made him invincible. She set it down on the floor and smashed it with the butt of her gun, once, twice, until it cracked. You think he'll come for it himself? Shane asked. Riley didn't answer right away. He won't send someone else, she finally said. He'll want to end this with his own hands. Shane watched her quietly. Then we're ready. The power flickered once. Lights went out. Both of them froze. EMP, Shane muttered. They're cutting surveillance. They grabbed their gear, Riley's breathing sharp but controlled. She turned to Shane, her voice low. You guard the truth. I'll face the lie. Then she moved to the front window, watching for the man she used to call Dad. To survive the night, Riley had to become what her father always feared, a woman who couldn't be manipulated. The wind outside screamed through the trees, rattling the safe house walls like bones clattering in a drumbeat. In the dark, Riley crouched beside the fireplace, rifle aimed, breath steady. Movement. 2 shadows crept along the tree line. She tapped twice on the floorboards, code 4 eyes left. Shane responded from the hallway. 2 more. Rear flank. They were being flanked. Not amateurs. This was SEAL-grade entry. They weren't just coming to kill. They were coming clean, no traces, no witnesses. To fight them, she needed leverage. She whispered, play the file. Shane plugged in a second drive to the solar backup power. Suddenly, the walls echoed with her father's voice. I don't care if they're civilians. You see movement, you shoot. A pause. Then screams. A child's cry. Gunfire. The strike team outside froze. The sounds blasted through wireless speakers Riley had planted hours earlier. She wanted them to hear. She wanted them to know. To question the man who sent them. A voice yelled from outside. Abort. She's got confirmation live. One of the shadows dropped his weapon. Another ran. But not all. A final figure stepped from the shadows. Taller, broader. Her father. He wasn't hiding anymore. And neither was she. The man at the tree line was no longer her father. He was the enemy. Thomas Carter stepped into the clearing like he owned it. No team behind him now. Just him and the weight of everything he'd built. The man who'd worn medals like shields. The man who'd disowned his daughter in front of a crowd, but now came to silence her in the dark. Riley stepped through the front door. Gun lowered, but not dropped. Thought you'd send someone else, she said. I wanted to see your eyes when this ends, he replied. Thunder cracked above them. Rain started to fall, slow, deliberate, like time was holding its breath. You watched those files? He asked. I lived them, Riley said. Every lie, every secret, every scream. He shook his head. You don't understand what those missions meant. What they prevented. No, you don't understand what they cost. She walked closer. Not scared. Not anymore. You build a legacy on the bones of strangers. You buried guilt under flags. And when I found out the truth, you disowned me to protect your illusion. He tilted his head, voice low. I disowned you to protect you. You weren't ready. She laughed bitterly. Look at me now. Silence. Then he reached for his weapon. So did she. Gunfire echoed once. Neither one pulled the trigger. Not yet. Because from the treetops, another voice cut through the standoff, sharp, calm, and cold. Drop your weapons. Both of you. A spotlight cut on. A figure stepped into view. The CIA handler. Shane stepped out from the back of the cabin, rifle up, nodding to Riley. They tracked the signal. They're here for the footage. The handler didn't blink. We're here to clean the mess you two made. Riley lowered her weapon just enough. You mean the mess you paid him to create? You don't know how this game works, Miss Carter. Oh, I do, she snapped. And now the public does too. Thomas turned to the handler. I gave you 3 decades. I cleaned your operations. You owe me. You're not an asset anymore, Commander, the handler said coldly. You're a liability. Riley looked between them. 2 men who once ran the shadows, now exposed under their own light. And what happens now? She asked. The handler stepped forward, gaze locked on Riley. We take the original file. You disappear. He disappears. The story fades. But Riley didn't flinch. You want the truth buried again? She said. You'll have to kill me. The handler paused. That was a problem. Because this time, everyone was watching. The word felt wrong now. Boss. Thomas Carter wasn't in charge anymore. Not here. Not now. And the man who used to control his movements, missions, and motives, the CIA handler, had lost his grip too. Riley turned toward both of them, wind tearing through the trees around them like ghosts screaming to be heard. You two ran the world like a backroom game. But that game's over. Her father growled, stepping forward. You think this ends with your little broadcast? You're a speck. A soundbite. I'm a weapon, Riley said. And you built me. Shane tossed a second flash drive to the ground. That one goes live in 10 minutes unless I kill the transmission. The handler hesitated. That file contains names. Coordinates. Black Ops going back 2 administrations. Riley stared. Exactly. Her father stepped back, just slightly. Just enough for her to see the fear. The shift. He wasn't the boss anymore. She was. The handler turned, trying to grab the drive. Riley raised her weapon again. This is where the Carter legacy dies, she said. With truth. Not silence. Her father didn't move. For the first time, he looked small. And she? She looked like the future. The silence didn't last long. Within minutes of the CIA handler's retreat and her father lowering his weapon, Riley's backup transmission went live. A timed release, just as she'd promised. And it was brutal. The screen filled with classified footage, maps, documents, black site locations, and war zone audio no one was ever meant to hear. Names of men in suits. Names of ghosts in uniforms. Places that didn't officially exist. Twitter exploded. Red banners slid across cable news stations like blood dripping down a wall. Carter conspiracy exposed. Whistleblower daughter defies SEAL commander. Military black files leak sparks congressional storm. Inside the cabin, Shane leaned over the screen. We crossed the point of no return. Riley didn't blink. Good. Her father stood in the doorway, pale, sweat beading on his temples. All the control he built for 3 decades, shattered by one girl who refused to stay in line. Outside, choppers began circling. Media, FBI, NSA. Everyone wanted a piece. You need to disappear, Thomas finally said. Now. Riley turned to face him. You still think this ends with me hiding? He didn't respond. Because he knew the truth, the story was no longer about him. The world had found a new focus. Her. So this was what exposure felt like. Not relief. Not celebration. Just clarity. A heavy kind of stillness. Riley stood outside the cabin, wind howling as floodlights carved through the darkness. Microphones pointed at her. Cameras rolled. Reporters fired off questions like bullets. Did you know about your father's crimes before the wedding? Was your mother part of the cover-up? Are you afraid for your life? Why leak now? She said nothing at first. Then she stepped forward and spoke. My father told me once, we protect the nation so civilians don't have to see the blood. But what happens when the protectors become the butchers? A pause. She scanned the sea of stunned faces. So I leaked everything. Because secrets don't heal. They rot. The crowd went silent. For just a second. Then, roar. Applause. Shouts. Emotion. Shane approached quietly. We have 10 minutes before feds move in. Once you step off this platform, there's no more turning back. I'm not here to turn back, she said. I'm here to bury the lie. I broke the chain, she said softly, her voice carried by every live stream across the country. I was raised in silence, taught to obey, to smile next to my father while he was cleaning up body bags across the world. I thought love meant loyalty. But it wasn't love, it was control. Reporters leaned in. America leaned in. I leaked the files because I couldn't carry that silence anymore. I needed the truth to scream louder than the blood ever could. Riley's hands trembled only slightly now. I don't want power. I don't want a book deal. I want accountability. For the men who gave orders. For the ones who buried the bodies. And for the ones who called that patriotism. The crowd didn't cheer this time. They listened. Because it didn't sound like a performance. It sounded like a eulogy. For every innocent life wiped out in the name of safety, this isn't justice yet. But it's the start. She stepped back. The handler was gone. Her father, silent. But the world? Finally awake. 3 days after her broadcast, Riley received a package at a private drop address. One only Shane and her knew. No return label. No postmark. But it had weight. Authority. Inside, a single hardbound file. Stamped. Eyes only. Seal Asset Archive 290. X/Operation Echo Widow. She and Shane read it together in the dim cabin light, hearts pounding with every page. But it wasn't about Thomas Carter. It was about her mother. Riley's eyes darted line by line. Coded messages, signed authorizations. A pattern. Wait, Shane whispered. She wasn't just covering for him. She was running ops, Riley said, stunned. She was his handler before they were married. Photos confirmed it. Her mother in combat zones, younger, sharper, not just the quiet housewife. A note clipped to the final page read, "If she contacts you, don't trust her. She played both sides before. She will again." Riley dropped the file. Her hands went cold. "She set me up," she whispered. "The wedding. The timing. Jason, all of it." The twist hit her like a body blow. She thought her father was the monster. But the real strategist was the woman who kissed her forehead every night and told her to behave. And she was still out there, watching. His voice came through her burner line at midnight. "Riley, we need to talk." Thomas Carter. Calm. Collected. But not in control anymore. "I know you got the file," he said. "You weren't supposed to." "No," she replied, bitter. "I was supposed to burn with the rest of your cover story." He sighed. "You think I was in charge? She built this. I was just the one who made it move." "Stop blaming her," Riley snapped. "You made your own choices." "She's coming back," he warned. "And not for me. For you." Riley paced the room, heart in her throat. "Why warn me?" "Because I've seen her clean up threats before. You don't know what she's capable of. She's my mother. She was mine too. Once." That line hit harder than it should have. The phone went silent. Shane stepped into the room. "We have movement." A plane landed in D.C. 2 aliases linked to your mother's known contacts. Riley nodded, gripping the table. "This isn't just about exposing a monster anymore," she said. "It's about surviving one." The next 48 hours moved like a tactical sprint. Riley and Shane relocated to a hidden property outside Asheville, a safe house owned by a former field medic with loyalty only to the truth. Every window was lined with thermal shields, every door reinforced. Inside, Riley assembled maps, files, and red string connections like a general prepping for war. This wasn't a scandal anymore. It was a battlefield of legacy, lies, and survival. "She faked her own CIA retirement," Shane said, eyes scanning intel. "She never left the game. Just changed the board. And married the next useful piece," Riley replied. "Used him. Used me. Played a long game no one saw coming. She's coming to erase you. Then let her try." A chopper rumbled in the distance. Not military. Not press. "Eyes up," Shane warned, peeking through thermal scope. Single vehicle inbound. Dark SUV. 1 passenger. "Her?" Riley asked. He nodded. Riley took a breath, loaded her weapon, and spoke without blinking. "Then let's finish what she started." The war wasn't over. It had just changed hands. Riley watched the SUV roll to a slow stop under the Carolina pines. The woman who stepped out didn't look like a fugitive. Her mother looked perfect. Hair pinned, trench coat buttoned, lipstick like war paint. Riley stepped out of the cabin's porch, gun holstered but visible. "I always knew you'd come," she said. Her mother smirked. Well, I raised you. Shane stayed out of sight, rifle ready from the attic. Riley walked forward until they stood 6 feet apart. Why? She asked. Why destroy my life? Betray Dad? Use Jason. Because I had to survive, her mother said flatly. You were raised in peace. I was raised in missions. Marriage was just another cover. You could have left. You could have told me. I needed your wedding. The media. The military guests. The cameras. I needed him to slip. And you delivered. Riley's voice cracked. I was never your daughter, was I? Just another pawn. No, she said, softer now. You were the best one I ever built. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was design. Riley's hand twitched near her holster. You came to kill me? No, her mother said, stepping closer. I came to erase the only file I didn't control. Inside the cabin, the secure laptop blinked. Transmission in progress. Backups of every operation. Footage. Documents. Names. The file wasn't just evidence now. It was a reckoning. Riley had named it. Carter Blood_Truth Final.mp4. Her mother's eyes scanned the desk. You're planning to leak it all? It already leaked, Riley said. This is the master key. Once it's released, no one hides behind rank or clearance again. Her mother glanced around the room, calculating every door, every escape, every threat. Then she smiled. I taught you well. But you forgot one thing. Riley cocked her head. What's that? Her mother lunged. Not for Riley, but for the laptop. Riley tackled her midair, the table crashing behind them. Fists flew. Nails raked. No guards. No backup. Just 2 women, both trained to win. You don't get to control the narrative anymore. Riley shouted. Her mother grabbed a shard of glass from the floor. I created the narrative. The blade slashed. Riley cried out. Shane kicked the door in, rifle raised. Step back now. But it was Riley who pulled herself up, blood dripping from her shoulder, and slammed the laptop shut. I don't need it, she hissed. I am the file. To break a legacy, you have to become something stronger than its shadow. Riley stood, shaky but steady, facing the woman who built a world of silence, fear, and manipulation and called it motherhood. Shoot me, her mother whispered. You think this ends any other way? Shane aimed. Riley raised her hand. No, that's not how this ends. She stepped forward, chest heaving. You want to be erased? Then watch. She held up her phone, pressed a button. A live stream began. Every follower, every news outlet, every agency watching. Riley stared into the lens. This is the woman who trained war criminals and used her daughter as bait to cover her own sins. She married the enemy, ran his ops, and tried to silence me when I found the truth. Her mother stared at the screen, frozen. You were never loyal to this country, Riley said. You were loyal to control. Then she tossed the phone to the ground, camera still rolling, and walked away. She didn't need to pull a trigger. She just opened the door and let the world do the rest. His voice came back only once, through a voicemail. Riley listened to it alone. Riley. I never imagined I'd raise a daughter who would burn the house down. But maybe that's what it needed. Maybe I was never the foundation. Just the weapon. Static bust. A cough. He sounded smaller. I tried to fight for the country. Then for my name. Now I see. You fought for the truth. She replayed it twice. Thomas Carter was in federal custody now, stripped of clearance, charges pending for crimes no longer deniable. The footage Riley leaked had been authenticated by 4 intelligence agencies. The Pentagon had no choice but to move. But this wasn't vindication. Not for Riley. Because no prison could restore what he'd broken. No sentence would erase the silence she grew up in. She opened her old family photo album. Her 5th birthday party. Him in uniform, lifting her on his shoulders. He looked like a protector. Now she knew he was just playing a role. She closed the book and burned it. The CIA called her in. Not an arrest. Not an ambush. A meeting. 2 agents escorted her into a glass-walled conference room at Langley headquarters. She walked in with her hands steady, heart calm, face unreadable. The same handler from earlier sat across from her, now demoted, stripped of clearance, waiting on disciplinary review. A woman in a suit spoke first. You've cost this agency more than any foreign actor in the last 5 years. I exposed the rot, Riley replied. You just didn't expect it from a Carter. Why are you here? The handler asked, eyes hollow. Riley placed a folder on the table. Final documentation. The last file. The agent opened it. Inside, a list of names Riley refused to leak publicly, those not guilty of bloodshed, but complicit in silence. You have a choice, she said. You use this to fix your system, or I release part 2. You think you can threaten us? No, Riley said. I'm offering a second chance. Silence. Then, slowly, the handler nodded. You're not your father. No, Riley said. I'm what comes after men like him. Riley walked out of Langley to flashing cameras and shouted questions. But this time, she didn't run. She raised her hand for silence. I don't want fame. I don't want politics. I don't want to become a face on a documentary. She looked right into the lenses. But I will become something my father never was, accountable. She turned, walking toward Shane, who waited at the car. You sure about this? He asked. I'm not meant to follow orders, she said. I'm meant to rebuild what they broke. You starting a war? No. I'm building something to end one. She handed him a sealed envelope, her first directive as head of a brand new organization, a privately funded watchdog group composed of ex-intel officers, journalists, and veterans. Its name? BOSS, Bureau of Operation and Shadow Scrutiny. Independent, unowned, unafraid. She wasn't waiting to be saved anymore. She was the system now. The cabin was quiet now. Not the tense kind of quiet Riley had grown used to. The silence before gunfire or betrayal, but the kind that came after. After war. After exposure. After the dust refused to settle. She stood alone in the clearing behind the house, eyes on the tree lean where her father had once walked toward her like a ghost from a nightmare. The world had moved fast. Faster than anyone expected. Her father was indicted on 17 counts. Her mother was flagged internationally. Interpol, CIA, and the ICC all tracking her aliases. And Riley? She wasn't hiding anymore. The BOSS initiative had gone public. Headlines called her the whistleblower that rewired the machine. Senators quoted her live speech in congressional hearings. But none of it healed what was gone. She dropped to her knees in the dirt, pulled a small metal case from her jacket, and opened it. Inside, one dog tag. Her name on it. She placed it in the ground, right where she used to build forts as a kid, and whispered, You don't get to own me anymore. Behind her, Shane stepped outside with 2 mugs of black coffee. You okay? No, she said. But I'm finally real. He handed her a mug. To endings. She looked up, eyes still sharp. To what comes after. So much had changed, and yet Riley couldn't stop thinking about one thing, the girl she used to be. The girl in the white dress, standing at the altar, waiting to start a life with a man who didn't love her, in front of a father who would rather destroy her than face his truth. That girl was gone, but what remained was stronger. Now, she walked through Capitol Hill, not as a target, not as a symbol, but as a witness. Riley was scheduled to testify at the Justice Committee's closed-door hearing on covert ops abuses. Inside the chamber, she faced the row of men in suits and crisp uniforms and said nothing at first. Let them squirm. Then, steady and calm, she said, I'm not here for vengeance. I'm here because silence breeds monsters. And I killed mine. Senators leaned in. Cameras rolled outside. Reporters whispered behind glass. And so, she continued, if my story can stop one more girl from being used, one more soldier from being lied to, one more innocent from being erased, then everything I lost is worth it. She stood, walked out without another word. Outside, Shane waited. You done? Riley gave him a small smile. Not even close. They got in the car and drove toward a future not yet written. The sun was just beginning to rise over Washington, spilling gold across the white stone of Capitol Hill. Riley Carter stood on the steps of the Justice Memorial Building, hair pulled back, black suit pressed, her fingers wrapped around the folded transcript of her testimony. Beneath her calm was something deeper, not peace, Not pride, but gravity. Behind her, carved in stone, were the names of the fallen. Names used like currency to justify things that should have never happened. She walked past them slowly. One name stopped her cold. Jason Miles, Kia, 2025. Deployed 3 months after the wedding. Killed in an ambush during an off-book operation. She hadn't even heard he enlisted. So that's where they sent him, to bury him under purpose. Riley stared at the name, heart heavy. He'd betrayed her, but he'd also been used. Just like she was. Just like Thomas. Just like thousands. She knelt, touched the stone once, and stood tall again. Later that evening, Riley stepped into a quiet studio. A camera faced her. This wasn't a network interview. No handlers. No agenda. Just her voice. She looked into the lens. You've heard my story. A daughter raised in silence. A legacy soaked in shadows. And a choice, to burn it all down or let it consume me. A long pause. Her eyes didn't blink. I chose the truth. No matter the cost. Another beat. If you've ever been lied to by the people who were supposed to protect you, I want you to know something. You're not crazy. You're not weak. And you're not alone. She leaned closer. And now I want to ask you, if this was your story, would you have stayed silent? A pause. Tell me below. Where are you watching from? She smiled, soft but real. And if you think stories like this need to be told, then don't just scroll. Hit that like. Hit subscribe. Because truth doesn't go viral unless someone dares to spread it. The screen faded to black. But Riley Carter's voice? It stayed.